Hi guys, this is a follow-up to my last video on solo leveling, where I pointed out what I thought were red flags, indicating the level of writing quality that I should expect from the show going forward. Of everything I said in that video, there was one point I made for which there were no shortage of comments, eager to share how specifically brilliant I was for pointing it out. If you haven't watched that video already, the first red flag I point out is that the show opens with a narrator explaining that conventional weapons are useless against the monsters that appear in the show, and that this statement is something that's never explored or questioned within the show. I pointed out other things in that video, but I'm just focusing on this one here. The point was never that I think we need a full, detailed explanation of which weapons work and why, or that if an element of a story is unexplained that that's immediately bad writing. Of course not. Elements of a story are often intentionally left vague, and they're all the better for it. The problem here is that it stretches believability past its breaking point, and not believability like, oh well, these characters are using magic, that's not believable. I mean believability within the setting. Gates appeared, and because of them, or alongside them, various classes of magical abilities were bestowed on certain people. Okay, cool. That's kind of vague, but that seems intentional. And the people in this world obviously put a lot of time into understanding the gates and making use of them. And we see instances where something out of the ordinary happens, like with the double dungeon or the red gate, and the characters are shown to be aware that this is unusual. The vagueness of these gates is something that the people of this world are very aware of and they're interested in, because that's how you would expect people to behave. And when it comes to the statement, conventional weapons are useless, the world's setting almost begs the audience to question what that means. You can't use guns, but you can use a knife, and you can throw the knives. There are also projectile weapons that aren't guns. The magic ore from the gates is mined and used to make weapons and tools, which we know can be used to fight the monsters. So what makes a weapon conventional? Among all of the lavish praise, one question stood out. What would I have done to fix it? First, I don't think having a narrator or character explain part of the world is inherently bad, nor do I think that the rules laid out by the narrator are themselves a problem. It's more about the questions raised by what's said, and how the consequences are realized within the world. The rule in this case being conventional weapons are useless. Let's face it, people are really good at making weapons. And the show even gives us an unpopulated island filled with monster ants that represents an existential threat to the people of Korea. There would be a vested interest in finding a way to solve this problem, expensive or not. If they could just bombard the island with missiles, they would. And just while we're on the topic, these ants can't get to the mainland because they can't swim. So, drowning is a non-conventional weapon, just by the way. But I've been thinking about it, and I think we can improve this in a way that it gets woven in without changing the overall story too much. As a show of good faith, we start off with the same opening the show already has. Conventional weapons are useless. But then, you have one of the characters, maybe even Jinwoo himself. Actually, yeah, let's say it's Jinwoo because I think that works best for what we're trying to portray. Also, yeah, I've been saying his name wrong. It's not Jinwoo, it's Jinwoo. We'll have Jinwoo be like a nerdy inventor character. As they enter the dungeon, he pulls out an obviously makeshift crossbow, and one of the other party members begins to chastise him. Are you still trying that? Haven't you learned your lesson since last time? A friend helped me make that round from a mana crystal. I thought, maybe this time if I use a real magic weapon as the projectile, it'll work. Haha, the military tried for years. If there's a way to make better weapons, they'd have found it. I just think maybe there's something nobody's tried. They get attacked. Put those toys away! If you can't fight with your own strength, don't go expecting us to save you every time! This whole interaction reinforces several narrative goals that we're trying to get across. That Jinwoo is weak, that Jinwoo is also clever, that some weapons don't work, and that this is being looked into or is being looked into, and the reason why they don't work is unclear. Also that some people, if not most, have just come to accept this. Let's also say that in this setting, expensive tools and equipment are required to gauge the strength of a magic weapon, much like the machinery that's used to test the hunter rank. And to get an accurate reading, they need to measure the amount and frequency of mana coming off of the weapon or whatever. Then, when Genu acquires the system, he's able to note that this directly correlates to the weapon's stats that he's able to see. He views the stats on his knife, then he picks up the knife crossbow thing again and loads it. The stats momentarily glitch and then go to 0 or error or something as he scowls in frustration. Later on, Genu visits the weapon shop and he notices a crossbow. What's the difference? Again later on, he throws one of his daggers at a snow elf, taking it down. Why does it work when I throw the knife? Aish, this is completely arbitrary. Much later on, it's revealed that the entities responsible for the gates put in place rules of engagement. This allows the rules around weapons to be somewhat arbitrary. They're literal rules. They were decided upon by these other beings. Having things laid out this way shows that people have actually thought about this. They've questioned it. Genu himself wonders why the rules are as arbitrary as they are. This continuation of having him question these things ties his later character changes to his earlier, weaker form, showing that he still has this curious streak and a desire to figure out what's going on with this. He remains curious even when he's already overwhelmingly powerful and probably doesn't need to think about it anymore. And it drops a few hints that there is something going on, and it wasn't just something the writer never actually thought about. Normally, just saying some higher beings did it might seem like a bit of hand-waving, but in this case, it fits into what the show already establishes. You already have these outside entities involved in creating the system, and the gates, and the voices that the monsters hear. And I think this wraps things up pretty nicely. It doesn't change the story too much. It allows the rules to be kind of arbitrary. It explains them within the context of the things that are already present in the story. It makes Genu look more clever and like he's actually considering some of these things himself and beginning to question it. So I thought that was a pretty good way to fix this part of the story. And this is just an aside, but what the f*** is Genu doing here? Was he just gonna punch through the display case in the store? This employee tells him the display cases are indestructible, and his first thought was just, "No problem, me strong, me break glass." Imagine if his life had gone a different route. He would have found himself in a Tiffany's looking at rings. "Oh, my good man, we have a fine selection of rings. The lovely lady is welcome to try on any of them. Allow me a moment to find the key to the display." "No need!" Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. Give this video a like and subscribe. So anyway, that's all I got for today. I'm out.